Welcome to the 20th episode of the Daft Previews podcast, the most underrated sports podcast in the country, voted by yours truly. In this episode, we'll talk a little bit of dribble and most likely fall into a couple rabbit holes. We'll assess the performance from some of the rubbish clubs which have been eliminated from the season, and we'll preview week one of the NRL finals. My name is Hector, and I'm joined by my co-host, Lycus. What's cracking, big dog?
First week of the finals. So we've actually got a bit of a break now between this and the first game. A couple of days off now to really get ready for a big weekend of sport. Premier League's back on. A lot of sports, NFL, I believe. The college football started. NFL's not too far away. Basketball, NBA is starting up soon. So exciting time of year. And the weather, it's starting to get warmer too. Apparently 30 degrees out here on Saturday out in the west.
Ooh.
So feeling it. It's good.
Great time to sit in your front porch. I've added that into my morning routine now. I wake up and I just sit on the front porch, smash an energy drink, vape, and stare at the sun until I'm alive enough to work. So it's an excellent routine. A lot of people encourage walking and exercise, but I think this works. Mentally, I'm stimulated. Body is falling apart, but
it's a deadly combo, the old vitamin D with about 600 different ingredients in an energy drink, I imagine.
Yeah, and then just high doses of nicotine through these imported vapes from China. It's working. It's keeping me alive. But no, a lot of things to get through. It's a real exciting time of the year. I wanted to get straight into our thoughts of the week because I know you've always got something juicy prepared. And I just want to get my thought of the week off my fucking chest and out of my mind. So we'll kick it off with you, though. What's in your mind? What's going on?
All right. So as I've been aware, been letting you know, I've been on a little bit of a health kick last couple of weeks out of pure boredom. Obviously, being in lockdown, I thought let's challenge myself and let's see if I could just go on a diet and stick to a diet. And I committed until we get to go to the pubs again. I'm going to be very strict on what I eat and so forth. And I was thinking about it, just listening to people talk about it and stuff, because I've been chatting with people about it. And then, you got vegans and you got vegetarians and you've got pescatarians, whatever they call them. You've got all different types of people who have these diets that are full time, right? Because I'm going until we get out of lockdown, and then I'm running headfirst through a screen door to a pub with my COVID check-in app, of course. And downing 600 schooners, which is just going to ruin it. That's my plan. Mm-hmm. And I thought, how do people do this full time? And then I remember over the time I've cooked some foods for these people, and one thing I've thought about is I never understand these people who are vegetarian and vegan. If there's probably people out there listening who are fair enough to you, but why do you guys have substitutes? Why do you have vegetarian sausages when you don't I know you don't like meat, but don't sub it.
Why fake meat?
Why fake meat? Why fake veggie patty burgers and stuff like that? Come on, that's not. It's not a burger. It's not a sausage. You're not eating that meat. That substitute. And people have been substituting things to make wraps and stuff and all this garbage. And I've just wondered why. If you're so anti-meat, why would you eat something that might not have meat in it, but it's signifies what it's come from is a meat product.
Trying to replicate it.
Yeah, you're trying to replicate it. No, you don't eat it. You just eat your salad. That's all it is. But I've really thought about it. I've just never understood it because it never tastes the same. Those people that do protein pancakes, just eat pancakes. Don't just you eat your protein separate. It doesn't work. It never has. Those people who they put up on their Instagram and they're oh, look at this lovely it's all this. I swapped this out. Nah, it's not it. It's shit. It's fake. It's what me and you often chat about, which I'm going to bring up in another episode. Deception. You're being deceived, guys. You are on a diet, fair play to you. If you're on it, you have your reasons, fair enough. But don't substitute it. Just eat that food that you're only staying to eating. Stay in your lane is my thought of it.
I like that.
Yeah.
I liken it to how I ditched the darts and now I vape full time. I've substituted how I get my nicotine.
Yeah.
But I think you can only pull that off if you can find a benefit to it and buy in. So unless you're a vegan who's all I love these fucking tofu sausages, they really fill me with wellness and I love how it tastes. I love the texture. I can use it as a sex toy, like whatever it is. Like you've got to find another benefit out there that just having a substitute. It's rank. I did eat one of those once.
Accidental or have
Oh yeah, it's accidental.
fuck.
Yeah.
Feel for you, man. Like, and it's same with like alcohol. Like these non-alcoholic beers. Why? Like a beer is alcoholic. I'm sorry, you can't call it non-alcoholic beer and think it's a beer. Like who goes? I've never tried one, and I assume they taste similar in an extent. But who would go to a party? It's like, oh, sorry, I've got the 0%ers. I'm drinking non-alcoholic beer. It's not the point of getting on the beers. You get on the beers because they make you feel good. It's not as like I know people say it's a social thing to an extent. It is, but like when you have a few beers, you get a bit of rowdy and you like get on the pun, have a laugh. Like you wouldn't feel that on 0%ers. Like I drink
it lifts.
Yeah,
the party lifts. Everything gets better.
Exactly. I've never understood it. Mocktails, so obviously cocktails without the alcohol in them. People sit there, I'm like, that's an Instagram thing. I feel a lot of people do it because they're like, oh, look at the drinks. They put it up, but that anything that substitutes for what it is and it's taken out its main property. So alcohol in beer, for example, alcohol in anything, meat out of like its products, it doesn't work. And that's my thought. My thought is don't do it. Stay in your lane. If you don't drink alcohol, then stick to the soft drinks and water, which is perfectly fine. I've never looked at someone going, oh, I would judge someone harder if they had a 0% beer on my table. That's how I would. I would honestly say, go sit over there. Like, don't even come near us.
Yeah.
That's my thought.
I like that. My last thought on that is now that I've thought about it, because you brought it to my attention, it's disgusting. I find it to be sickening. And it's something that you should only do when you're alone. I liken it to having a blow-up doll.
Yes.
Like, if you can't jack off and have sex with a real person, don't substitute it with this blow-up doll. It's disgusting. And you don't do that in public, right? You do it in the privacy of your own home.
No, true.
So I think just like that, all the fake meats, all the bloody mocktails and 0% alcohol beers, do it in the comfort of your own home. Don't do it around anybody else because it's disgusting. We won't stand for it. Onto my thought of the week. Not as deep in thought as yours, but something very close to my heart. I was thinking about it today, and honestly, I was just thinking about how great our Discord channel is. Like the growth is
huge,
almost as amazing as the growth on the back of my head. Referring to my skullet, but it's just pumping so well. Like we only have 268 members. 268 total members. And there's only a small percentage on at any given time, between 30 and 50. But from only 30 and 50 members, the thing's just blowing up deluxe. Like it is so active. Everyone is like-minded. There's a couple of weird cunts, and if you're listening, you know who you are, but every community has those.
Just don't drink 0% beer and we're cool. That's easy.
But I think I've been part of many Discord channels specific to what we do, talking about punting, talking about sports and having a good time. And I've been a part of heaps of groups, paid groups, free groups, and honestly, nothing stacks up to what we have running at the moment. There's nothing toxic happening. There's always engagement. There's a buzz, and people are really starting to stand up in their particular niches as specialists in that area. And that's what the community is all about. Having the right person talking about that right sport, sharing their insights and tips on it, so we can all have some fun and eventually profit. So I'm honestly ecstatic with how it's all going. It's pumping. It's fantastic. It fucking beeps a lot throughout the day, but
it goes off. It does go off throughout the day. And if anyone wants to change the settings to just a no noise, that would probably change your life. But I agree, it's something that we've talked at lengths about with growing, is obviously the Discord channel, but like we've always agreed on that we want it to grow in the right way. We don't want to you see, and I'm not going to slag off particular pages, but these pages that start off with this way and you join it on a similar mindset, and then all of a sudden you get messages about tipping services and paying, and like that's not what we want it to be. Obviously we want to be in there. Obviously we want to make money, we want to win bets and have a laugh, but the main bit, as I just said, is have a laugh. Like, and that's the best bit about it, is that's what we're going to continue to grow it as. Like, we're never going to deviate from that. It's just going to grow as it is now. So people are in and out enjoying it. I'm just going to enjoy it on a bigger level going forward. And, as you see, a lot of members coming in. But thankful for everyone, obviously, that already is in there and everyone that does contribute, who's shared, who's invited people. That's been absolutely awesome. And it's you guys that grow it in the end. Like, we can only do a little bit. We'll put out the podcast, and we've got some other things coming up that we want to do as well. But you guys have to contribute on the Discord for it to make it work. So very grateful for everyone in there.
Shout out to you, moist makers, the highly aroused, the semi-erect, and even the flaccid and dry. Shout out to all of you. And if you aren't part of the Discord channel, get in. It's free, and I promise you it'll be free forever, and it will continue to grow. So don't miss out. Jump in. And if you're not interested, go fuck yourself. Now, aside from my love for this Discord channel, there's not many more things. Like, the Crate Challenge is up there, people getting hurt is up there. But one thing I really like to do is to talk shit about teams, professional teams who have underperformed against the expectation.
Yeah.
So what I wanted to do today is I wanted to review the season from some of the clubs who've just been eliminated. Partly because it's the last time I'll get to talk about my Broncos on this podcast until the year 2022. But it's also a good chance for me to sling shit at other teams, such as Jack Wyden and the Canberra Raiders. Can't wait till I get to that. But we'll go from the bottom and we'll work our way all the way up to the top. So our wooden spooners for 2021 have gone back-to-back. Nah, they should have gone back-to-back, but they beat the Broncos last year. But it's the Canterbury Bulldogs. So the Canterbury Bulldogs, they finished the season on 8 competition points. They had 3 wins. They did set a record in the very last game, but 3 wins, 21 losses, and they conceded 710 points, and they only managed to score 340. At the start of the season, they had a 1.3% chance of making the top 8. So they still had a chance, not a big one, but 1.3%. I guess, how would you sum up the season for the Canterbury Bulldogs? Because I was disappointed with the signings they had. I expected a lot more.
Yeah, they've been.
What are your thoughts?
The Dogs have been very disappointing. Obviously, that last game gave them a little bit of hope, but that going into that last game, I think if Tigers kept them to under 12 points or something like that, Ruben Garrick would have scored more points than the whole team did for the whole season. Like, that was like the records they were talking about. They conceded just under 30 points a game every single week. Like, that's just crazy thought. Imagine being a Dogs fan and you know your team are going to have at least 30 put on them every week. And yeah, they've gone backwards. I'm not a massive fan of Trent Barrett as a head coach. I think as assistant coach, he's done well. But then, look, since he's left Penrith, it wasn't like Penrith have slowed down. And that's been a lot of arguments with that team was like, oh, Barrett's leaving, Tarmow's leaving. Like, these players are leaving and they haven't exactly gone backwards. So I'd say whilst he was the attacking coach, he doesn't get all the credit for the Penrith's attack. So I think massive disappointment with their signings. And to be honest, with the signings they're getting next year, I think they'll improve a little bit. I know Gus is there and he's doing some changes, but I still think they're a couple of years away from really being a team heading in the right direction. So I think next year they'll be fighting for the spoon. I feel like they'll improve a couple more, 3 more, probably 3-4 more wins in them. So they'll probably have about 7 wins, 7-8 wins, which puts them around that second last, third last mark. So very disappointing year from them.
Jeez, I think the Bulldogs will do all right. I think they'll be fighting to make the 8. I don't think they'll be close to the 8 because I reckon they'll be fighting to make the 8. I've got high hopes for that team.
That's a lot of.
They got big ends. Fuck, it's his problem, not mine.
They've got a winger who's played at the Melbourne Storm his whole career and just gotten piggyback for his tries. Different kettle of fish down here. Kotrick was a prime example of it. He went there and he's gone to crap. Corey Allen played Origin, gone to crap.
Phil Gould's there. Phil Gould fixes things, but not immediately. It takes time, but I am expecting them to still have that Bulldog spirit with some better players. But I think the biggest problem is the coaching. The coaching and the recruitment problem was the biggest thing this year. They recruited all these players that sucked. Like, their best player was someone they didn't even recruit. He's been there the whole time. Yeah. Who's their best player been? Avarillo?
No, the best player's leaving. It's Meaney.
Oh yeah, Meany. He's been there
Meany's
the whole
been,
time. He's gone.
and he's going to Melbourne. You watch him at Melbourne, he'll kill it. They've lost their
He'll
best
have a
player.
Nico Hines type season.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they've lost their
that's
best
true.
player.
Scrubs. All right, the team second from the bottom is the North Queensland Cowboys. Finished on 16 competition points, 7 wins, 17 losses. They had an 11% chance to make the top 8 this season. At certain stages of the year, they looked destined to make the top 8. Then they went through a shit run. It's as if they had a barbecue, but they didn't. But their performances have been fucking shocking, must I say. And a lot of the decisions by the coach haven't been great either. But how would you sum up the Cowboys season? Did they overachieve or underachieve? Or
No,
they
I think
right where you thought they'd
slightly.
be?
I think slightly underachieve. I don't.
Yeah.
The start of the season, I don't think, because if you the best thing to obviously do is how they achieve is compared to last season. They finished 14th last season, and they only won the 4 games. No, they won 5 games last year. Sorry, so they won 5 games last year and they've won 6 this year. So, but the expectation was, Peyton's in there. There's more stability now because Morgan's retired and XYZ. But they didn't. Their season wasn't great. Obviously, not making the 8, but it wasn't like they were expect.
Yeah.
What was the percentage to make the 8?
11%.
11%. So 1 in 10. So like the reality was it wasn't much expectation they'd make it. Next year, similar thing. They've signed Chad Townsend and the ultimate Rocks and Diamonds man himself, Peter Hiku. So we'll see.
Peter's got a job. I'm happy for him.
Yeah, he's good to watch. But I wasn't too. I think they put a lot of blame on, Paul Green and what's happened there, but with Ponga, and look, they lost Ponga, they've lost Kick Out, they lost Brandon Smith, but that was keeping JT on for that 1 extra year is what crippled them. Honestly,
they won the comp and they Cooper and all those blokes. Fuck them.
Yeah, they should have got rid of them earlier. That was the biggest thing, and they turned into a seniors team. So, I just think slightly underachieved, but nothing they weren't expected to.
Yeah, I agree. Slightly under, and I think they'll be in a similar spot next year as well. Unless Todd Payton, makes me his assistant coach and I make Taumalolo play prop.
80 minutes as well.
Which is unlikely. But to the team ranked 14th, the mighty Brisbane Broncos also finished on 16 points, 7 wins, 17 losses. They had a slightly better for and against than the Cowboys. My boys, what percentage they had? I think it was fuck all. It was less than the Cowboys when I last checked. They had a 4.1% chance of making the top 8. They actually had a 18.6% chance of having the most losses in the competition. So pretty close, pretty spot on this prediction.
Yeah.
But I'll share my thoughts on it after you share yours as I shed a tear. But how do you think my boys went? Under, over, just what you expected?
I think we're expected. I honestly, if you first half of the year, underachieving massively. And I think the end of the year, they've overachieved. And I think that's a balance. I think they showed on the weekend, the last couple of weeks, they've beaten the Sharks this year. They've beaten two teams in the 8. I think I would have them bang on achieved. I feel like over the year at the start of the season behind, but then finish this season strong, which is good. You'd rather finish strong than start fast and finish slow, because then there's a lot of question marks.
Because then we're the Dragons.
Yeah, the Dragons, and you're going, where are you going? But I think they achieved where expected. I don't think anyone had them in the 8 apart from probably you and every other Broncos fan.
No. I had a top 10.
Top 10?
But I was highly optimistic. So I was... Look, I'm content with how the season finished for the Broncos, but mainly because of how well they finished. I expected more because, Kevy's on board. The old boys are going to be hanging around. Just the vibe, community, morale would have been up. But it was shit. We had the same shitness that we had last couple of years continue to roll through. And it wasn't until Ben Eichen came, we started releasing some players who were probably adding to the shit. Like, Matt Lodge is going to lose everywhere he goes, and we saw that on the weekend.
How good was that, though? Just on that note, how good was the couple punches thrown and the push and shove?
I would have enjoyed it. Well, actually, no, I did enjoy it because that game killed one of my multis, like a big win I had. and for them to just throw hands. That's what I wanted to do because it cost me quite a bit of cash. But no, losing Lodge and Tavita and Dearden, like all these guys that just lose all the time, it's really freed us up. So, and I'm really excited. We've made a couple signings. We haven't made many signings, but we've made a few signings in key positions, which I'm happy about. The young boys that are coming in, really hot on them. Cobbo's a machine. Farnworth, if he knew how to pass, which he did, and Corey Oates scored. But if you pass consistently, we get a lot more meat pies. Staggs is a freak. The only concern for my boys for next year is probably what's happening at hooker. But even Tessie New at fullback, I can live with that. He'll get better. But the number 9's where I'm a little bit concerned. But somewhat content. And this is farewell to my Brisbane Broncos fans out there. You're not going to hear me talking about Brisbane for another year. So,
you'll tie the Rabbitohs game preview as the future halfback for the Broncos, Adam Reynolds. You'll find a way.
That's true. Oh yeah, I'll get a chance to talk about it. Even Capewell's going to come with a couple of try-savers over the next couple of weeks, and can't wait to see him do that in Brisbane colours. And plus, we'll probably see a few games played at Suncorp, so I'll have to talk about Brisbane then. Shall be done. Really keen to talk about this one. Placing 13th, 4 spots below their normal ranking, the West Tigers. They finished on 8 wins, 16 losses. They shit the bed many times. We've run out of clean sheets for these Tigers. I get the feeling that they severely underperformed. I just get that feeling. But then we look at their team list every week, right? And it's shit. Their team sucks.
Yeah.
I don't know why there's this feeling that they're letting people down. At the start of the year, they had a 9.3% chance of making the top 8. So they had less of a chance than the Cowboys. And they finished above the Cowboys, right? But for some reason, it's just so awful. I don't know, it's a stigma around the club because they've been shit for so long. You've got, a bone to pick with the West Tigers, so I'll hand it over to you. What are your thoughts?
Absolutely. This is taking, before I go into it, the weekend's game out of it because I'm very biased over what happened on the weekend. And this season, actually, the Tigers have really pissed me off all year. Absolutely underperformed. Easily the second most underperforming team this year by a mile. They take second by clear, and first is just ahead of them. They have the second worst defense in the comp. 714 points they conceded. Even the Dogs, which I talked about, just under 30 points, they conceded more than the Bulldogs. That's how bad they have been. The documentary showed it. Madge is apparently a defensive coach. They had no idea how to defend. Way underperformed, but I think their problems, you look at the teams where you have optimism for, and I do, like the Broncos and the Bulldogs, is they've made changes at the top, not the coaching. They've brought someone in like Ben Eichen and Phil Gould. The Tigers have that Justin Pascoe who looks like an absolute douchebag running that show, and he stands front and center every week of the games, and now he's doing an internal audit or something. I don't know. We don't want to turn into NRL 360, but the Tigers disappointed. Their best player is Adam Dewey. If he walked into any team above him on the ladder, would he even get in his preferred starting position? Probably not.
He'd be a 14, I think.
He'd be a 14 everywhere else he goes, and he's their best player. Just massive question marks for the whole team. They signed BJ Lilu and James Roberts, two of the most unreliable centers in the game. Pick them both. Good stuff, boys. But I think they're going to go backwards next year as well. I know they got Jackson.
I reckon they'll get the spoon.
I think they're in a fight. They're in a fight for the spoon. I feel like the Dogs, Tigers, and Dragons are fighting for the spoon next year. That's what my three-way fight.
It's a bit harsh.
No, I just can't see them getting any better. Luke Brooks, what a fucking myth. He's played 100.
Yeah.
Most games played as a halfback without playing a finals game is Luke Brooks. He's played 50 more games than Nathan Cleary. I know Nathan Cleary is a freak and everything, but there's to give you context. He's played 2 years more football than Nathan Cleary, and look where Nathan Cleary is and look where he is. Light years apart. They actually did cost me my perfect round of line betting last weekend. I did have 7 out of 8, and I only just needed them to cover -6.5 against a team that's only won 2 games all year. A team that's won 2 games all year. You guys have had a documentary of you guys and bloody on Fox Sports. All this hype expectation built into next year, and they turned up with dog shit. When Nathan Sini literally just stood on the ground when the ball went up and just let it hit him and froze. Yeah. And then when Meaney brushed through 3 defenders, again, Nick Meaney, good player, but nothing special, made it look so easy from inside the 20. I knew I was gone. But like they just fucking took like Norfoluma taking out Seeney on the wing, and when Jack Hetherington's it was a Benny Hill music shit. They are absolute. I feel a bit sorry for Tigers fans, but then I don't, because you guys were dickheads when you beat us in round 13. When we literally had no players playing. He's carried on like won the comp. Look at you now. Fucking idiots. Isn't that a bit dumb? Don't celebrate early.
You fucking losers.
Yeah.
No, the Tigers are shit house. I've got them. I've got the Tigers and the Cowboys battling out for the spoon next season. So stay tuned for episode 64, where we talk about futures bets for NRL. Made that up. Might not be 64 and it might not happen altogether, but there'll be more shit talk about the Tigers at some point next year, but you can guarantee I'll be lumping the Cowboys into that conversation. Finishing 12th on the ladder was the New Zealand Warriors. This team had more sex with me than any other team in the comp this year. They absolutely gave it to me. Last week on the podcast, I said I'll back the Warriors one more time, and I'll let them fuck me one more time, and they did exactly that. They gave me a thrashing. Like, I still can't sit down properly after what I saw on Sunday. But the Warriors, they actually had a 32% chance to make the top 8. They lost a lot of close games, lost a lot of games they should have. Roger did leave them. They were stuck in Australia once again. But I think they underperformed heavily. They had flashes of brilliance, but they fucking suck now that I think about it.
Wow.
What do you think?
I think they achieved. I think they...
fuck them.
You take any team, and the benefit this season is teams again had home games. You take away Melbourne Storm playing at home every week. You make Melbourne play on Sunshine Coast. They won't win as many games. I know this year they played a lot of football up there, but they did play games in Melbourne as well. But you take away those and you make them travel to a lot of their games at other team stadiums, which the Warriors done all year, apart from towards the end when they're both teams are in Queensland. But Warriors have played more away games than any team in the comp, and away form in Melbourne. You look at they lost 3 games. 2 of them were on the road. Penrith haven't lost a home game at Penrith Stadium, or technically home wherever they play, in 2 years now. There's a record there, and I think they did lose a lot of close games. And you think, imagine if that was at Mount Smart, that 1 point loss. They lost to Manly twice by a point. Imagine that one of those games were at Mount Smart. Do you think Manly get over? No, I don't think Manly beat them. Like, I think that's a difference there. I think Nathan Brown's the ultimate coach builder. Like, he'll build the team up. I don't think he's going to take them to the next level. I think he'll get them into the 8. I think next year
get him to the 8 and sack him.
Yeah, that's what I think.
They'll put Josh Hannay as assistant coach.
Yeah,
that's what they should do, and they'll move him.
Yeah. I think if they get back to New Zealand, but apparently there's talks they won't next year, which is absolutely mind-boggling.
I don't think they will.
That's going to be a worry. But if they get back to New Zealand, they will get a ton of games, and I think it's a good thing.
They should get every game. Yeah. Every game at home they should get.
It's a good thing to look out for a futures bet if they release it early, and if you can catch wind that they will be playing in New Zealand next year. Even if they go back to New Zealand, I think they make the 8 if they're playing every second week there, but there's a chance where they go back to New Zealand, they're going to get every game at home next year. And if you've got a team that has home games every week, they're going to have an advantage over the rest of the comp. I think they achieved where they should have. Josh Curran's a big find for me. I think he's an absolute weapon to watch. I like watching him play. The players they've lost, Roger's obviously a massive loss, but the rest of them not really massive in terms of losses. And Reece Walsh, a big reason why I went against the Warriors on the weekend is a lot of rookies in their first year towards the end of a season taper off. Look at Ponga a couple of years ago, started like a house on fire. By the end, he was tired. A first season.
Sam Walker.
Yeah, Sam Walker. I'm not an expert in rugby league, don't get me wrong, but the trend is with rookies in their first season at NRL, it's very deteriorating on the body, and it's very hard to maintain for a full season. The same when they first play their first season in Origin. If they play their first Origin games, post-Origin, they don't recover as well as your veterans who do it. So that was what I was thinking. A lot of it does go through Reece Walsh, and I think he's going to be a lot better next year. And I think the Warriors will be a lot better next year as well. So I think I've given them a pass, Mark.
You giving them a pass? Well, They fucked me, so I'm not passing them. In 11th spot was the Dragons. They won 8 games. They lost 16 games. They lost their last 8 or 9 games since the barbecue incident.
Yeah.
They did their typical clean up nice and early. They were sitting in the top 4 for a bit. Hook was being thrown up as Coach of the Year candidate. They had a 50% chance of making the top 8 this season. They absolutely shit the bed. I think the only win for the Dragons, Ben Hunt played really well. His best season since the 2015 season where the Broncos they brought the Broncos up again when the Broncos made it to the grand final. But yeah, Ben Hunt's best season. Tarek Sims played State of Origin. They did nothing after that. But then question marks on everything else. How do you think the Dragons went? They underachieve, overachieve?
I think if you take where they finished on the ladder, they overachieved. If you remember the start of the season, you actually had money on them to win the Wooden Spoon.
I did.
The Charity
Shield, lost a lot of money.
Charity Shield, they got absolutely butt fucked and pummeled by that South left edge, and everyone said Dragons are fucked. Because Dragons put out like a full strength team that game. From there, they had that string of wins at the start of the season, which catapulted them into the 8, and that's what saved them in the end, because then they had a barbecue and they didn't win anything afterwards, which is where I thought they would be more leaning towards. So I say they overachieved because I had them not winning. They actually had more points than they did last year under Mary McGregor. So overachieved. Anthony Griffin's still on the fence about him as a head coach because it seems like he's just fallen to his old habits, and the news out of there is he needs to start. Well, he did. He just brought in all the experienced players and didn't give his young guns a run as much as he should have. Like Tyrone Sloan, absolute beast of
He's a freak.
But he kept chopping and changing Dufty every week, and he said Dufty was the best player, even though Dufty was on the outer. So a lot of question marks on him. But as I said earlier, I know Corey Norman has not played a good football in a long time, and he's leaving, and they're all thankful and everything. But Tarek Sims, for example, the guy wasn't a beast during Origin, and they're getting rid of him. They lost Paul Vaughan, who again wasn't having his best season, but he was doing actually this season was playing better than last season.
He was,
and they've obviously had to get rid of him. They've so far signed Moses Sully, George Burgess for next year, so I don't see them improving. I think they overachieved this year, and if they achieve to where they should this year, then next year they're going to be competing for the spoon, I feel.
Oh, I agree. I agree that they overachieved this year because thanks for reminding me. I did put money on them to win the spoon. And I fucking cashed that shit out real quick. I think I took like $6 from my $50 bet.
Well, it's worth it.
Yeah. So on that account, I think, they did overachieve. The barbecue fucked everything. It's like if you think about it in your work setting, you work with a team, all right? You're in there every single day. Imagine if one of your teammates did something and fucking ruined everything to the point where half your teammates had to get stood down. There's no trust amongst the group. Someone's basically snitched on you. Imagine how you'd respond to that, So it would have been difficult for any team to push past that. So I'll give the Dragons a pass mark for this season. I am optimistic about how the Dragons look next year. They've got Sully, Burgess, Molo, who played Origin this year, Mbai. They got him pretty cheap, so pretty solid team. They keep Hunt. It's clear that Amone's going to play, Sloan's going to play, Sullivan might get a chance. I'm quietly optimistic about how the Dragons are going to go. I think they might finish in the top 10, but I don't think they'll get the spoon. But we'll leave that for our Futures podcast. On to the team that finished 10th, the Canberra Raiders, 10 wins, 14 losses. They actually... I'll share with you all the stats because the top 8 stuff there's more than that. A 7% chance of winning the comp, 32% chance of finishing top 4, and an 80% chance of finishing the top 8. And they finished 10th. 10th. They had the Dalian Player of the Year in that team.
Yeah, reigning Dalian player.
We spoke about him every week. But I guess I'll hand it over to you. So they overachieved. Tell me why.
They were easily the most underperforming. They were terrible. So underachieving as a team last year. yeah, they just stunk. Like they were awful. Not only they had the reigning Dally M Player of the Year, Jack White, and Papali'i or Papali is Papali. I'm going to call him Papali because that's when he was killing it. Was the prop of the year as well. Like they had the
He
best
got
prop.
worse when he changed his name.
They had the best prop. They had arguably the best 5'8", and arguably the best player apparently, even though everyone disagreed on it. But they had absolute form. They went into a new season. Preliminary finalists from grand final to preliminary final, so not much of a drop off to outside of the 8, and awful all year, like in and out, controversies on and off the field. Ricky Stewart has somehow is going to go into. I said he's going to get sacked. I don't know how he hasn't. He must just really have a good with the board, because this is now as a head coach for him. This will be next year. Will be the what year in 20? Yeah, next year will be the 20-year anniversary since he won the comp in his first year and hasn't won anything since. So he'll go 19 straight years as a head coach in the NRL without winning a comp, which is an unbelievable stat.
And he's had some good cattle. He's had some good cattle. It's not like he had a shit team. He's always had a pretty good team.
He had the Canberra team. He's had their premiership window shut. I think they go backwards again next year. They're going to be busy in the off season. Obviously, they got a bit of money because old Georgie Williams got up and left, and John Bateman left the season before that. But apparently, John Bateman wants to come back again. Let's not turn into NRL 360, but. Yeah, they haven't signed anyone yet, and then obviously they've done the old see you later, Curtis Scott. We don't like people who cause drama in the Canberra area, even though they're fucking notorious for it. But they had some good signs there. I think Sebastian Chris is a very good strong runner. Tomoko is a good ball runner.
That Randy Savage guy.
Savage, yeah.
First name's not Randy, but I'm calling him Randy Savage.
Yeah. Emre Gula. He was very good this year, I felt, as well. But there's just a lot of questions.
Matt Frawley was good.
Frawley was good, but he's off contract now too. So there's a lot of what ifs with Canberra, and I think a lot of it has to be how the team was run. Like a lot of the things could have been handled better with George Williams and the Canberra staff. The John
the Hodgson issue as well.
The Hodgson issue
was sticky.
Yeah, they've got a lot of question marks there. And this year they didn't sign well. And they haven't got anyone on the books yet. So they got money, but there's no one really out there.
No. Like they're talking about Ash Taylor or fucking Mitchell Pearce or something.
Yeah, they're literally going with reject halfbacks from other teams. If the Curtis Scott stuff happens sooner and everything, they might have had a bit of money and then potentially, through some at Reynolds. You never know. But yeah, that's the Raiders for me. I'm so disappointing.
Yeah. No, they're fucking shit. I think they failed to adjust to the game. The game changed this year. They didn't adjust with it. But I think they were still playing their old style and it doesn't work.
No.
Fucking giving away penalties all the time. I think their forward pack's too big. They don't have the mobility that all the other clubs have.
Yeah.
And they didn't spread the ball much. They're fucking everything up the middle. Second rowers score the most tries.
Crash bang plays. Yeah. That's all they relied on.
Yeah. Too much of that. But lastly, we got the Sharks. You had them to make the 8 at $10. You didn't put the bet on, but you're thinking you should have. They just missed out. Finished on 10 wins, 14 losses. They had a crazy type of year. They had a 37% chance of making the top 8. On paper, their team list is definitely good enough to make the 8. They had their fair share of controversy with John Morris being told to get fucked, and that's when the team was peaking. They were doing very well. They were doing too well. So they asked him to leave. Well, they didn't ask him to leave. They signed Fitzgibbon. And then Morris I want to finish off the year with the boys. And they're like, nah, you're not finishing with the boys. So the caretaker, the Undertaker, steps in. Their season turns to shit. And then somehow they had this turn of form towards the back end. Like the boys just wanted to get on it. So I don't know. It's a tough one for me. Do you think they're over, under? How do you fucking rate this season for these guys?
I feel like they achieved. I think they overachieved, to be honest, despite the shit they went through. They were at the start of this year. Their roster was very old. Like everyone looked at that roster going, "That's a very old roster." if you look at again, he's compared to like the Tigers, obviously got class, but they have like players like Josh Dugan, Andrew Fafita, who barely played any minutes, and they're on about 800K each. Wade Graham literally like trips over and knocks himself out and puts himself out for 10 weeks.
Moylan barely played.
Moylan's hammies. Every year talks about, no, he's doing this and that to improve his hammies. He's just injury. Sean Johnson, injury. Yeah. These players are already prior to the season had a history of injury problems, and they just continued it this year. And to be honest, no one really gave them a shot because they had John Morris as their coach, and there was already pressure on John Morris before the season even started. Even Ronaldo Mulitalo missed a lot of football. So similar across the board. I feel like they overachieved. I think their unsung heroes, like your Toby Rudolphs, Talakai, Kennedy, these players who be on cheap contracts. They're
fucking Connor Tracy.
He's done well. Braden Trindle's even stepped in and done work. Those players have been really the big lift for them, and I feel like they've overachieved. And I think going into next season, they'd be feeling pretty good because of what they've managed to clear off the books and what they've brought in instead, with Nico Hines, Finucane, and everyone forgets Cam McInnes is going there as well next year.
I know.
And they've got Fitzgibbon as their coach. So I feel like they've overachieved this year.
I agree. I'm with you. And they got some young throbbers coming through. That Metcalf guy, he goes hard too.
Metcalf is quick. He's very quick.
He's fast. I think he's Connor Tracy half the time. Like
he's only on a development contract as well. He's not in the top, like their top tier contract. Like he's down the barrel for them. That's how good he is playing.
Yeah. No, he's pretty good. But look, that wraps up our review of the shit clubs from the NRL this season. Let's get straight into these 4 games. Week 1 of the finals. It does kick off on Friday, so we do have a longer wait before we get to see some action. So there's more time to burn some money on the dogs or spend time with your wife, do some CrossFit, whatever you do in your spare time. You got an extra day for it. But the very first game this is probably the game I'm looking forward to the most, to be honest. So pretty keen for that. Sunshine Coast Stadium. We see the Melbourne Storm versus the Manly Sea Eagles. The Manly Sea Eagles don't have any changes to their team. Pretty much the same that we've been seeing week in, week out. For the Melbourne Storm, though, the biggest out is Josh Adokar. Question marks on whether he plays, but his hammy's absolutely fucked from what I hear. He hasn't been named.
He's out. He's gone. Yeah.
He's out? He's gone?
Yeah. He's not named. And he's
Cam
not
Munster.
on reserves.
Cam Munster's named, but he spent a bit of time in hospital with I think it's infection in his knee.
Yeah.
Some other ins. Christian Welsh is in there. Nelson. Look, all the big guns. They got a fucking great team, this Melbourne squad. I'm just looking at it now. That team is so good. Up against Manly. It's going to be a cracker. Melbourne did beat Manly this year. Manly were on song, on form with everything, and they were picked to be the first team to be able to topple this Melbourne Storm juggernaut. They were close, but Melbourne still pulled out a nice win against them. Melbourne, obviously heavy favourites in this one. $1.37 if you're go on that head-to-head. Manly, $3.10 if you're chasing the underdog. The line on this one is 8.5, and the total match points are 44.5. It's a tough fucking game to choose, let me tell you. But what are your thoughts on this one? How do we see this game going?
Definitely game of the round. I'll pick of the bunch for sure. This one's tough because I feel like a lot of people looking at this game as if both teams are hitting the straps flying. Where I know Manly in the second half last week, Tommy Turbo came to life and did amazing things, but he did it against the Cowboys team, which we just talked about, who are running third last. He's not going to beat 10 tackles in one run against the Melbourne Storm. But prior to that, their first 30 minutes from Manly last week and the first 30 minutes from them against the Bulldogs in particular the week before were absolutely shit. Like they were clunky. Yeah. It's not flowing. I don't know, because Turbo's playing in field a bit more. It's not as smooth. But it's not, I look at both these teams and I don't think they're playing as well as they were when they met a month and a half ago. That's how I see it. I think both teams aren't at the same level. That back line, for some reason, maybe take Adakara, but it doesn't look as threatening and looks a bit more shaky defensively for that Melbourne team. which I think Manly will enjoy. But Brandon Smith's back in that team automatically makes a difference. But I'm not convinced on either team playing their best football for 80 minutes. I think the unders is what I'm playing and where I'm leaning at under 44 and a half. Because I think this is going to be clunky. I don't think it's going to be fast attacking football end to end. And I've noticed the last couple of weeks, the refs haven't blown as many 6 agains and as many penalties. They're allowing the game to go on a bit more. So it's slowing down a little bit. Obviously, when you look at some of the results, it may not suggest it. But if you look at when the big teams play against each other, they're a lot more grindy games than they were prior. So the under 44 and a half is where I'm leaning.
Nice. Yeah, I see it very similar. These teams aren't performing as well as everyone thinks they are, which means this competition is wide open. Manly with the Smokies, Melbourne with the favourites, kind of mashing them all together. It's not as easy to choose. My play on this one, I've avoided the line, the head-to-head, and the total match point because I'm looking for $2 and I'm looking for value. The lads in the Discord today already got fired up the chat talking about value. And one Smoky for this game, which I'm not adding to my play, but maybe something I jump on as a single bet, is Morgan Harper. $4.50 to score a try. $4.50 as a centre. It's monstrous. You got Dylan Walker coming off the bench. He does, but he runs lines.
Yeah.
Really well. He doesn't play deep in attack. That's why Saab, he only gets long range tries and tries off kicks.
Yeah.
It doesn't go through the hands because Harper's always running that line.
Yeah.
And he crashes over. But my pick for this game is for Ruben Garrick to score a try at $2.10. $2.10 for Ruben Garrick to score a try. He happened to be one of the top try scorers from this season. He's on the left edge, which every team except for the Broncos tends to favour. The right side defence for Melbourne, which is Remus Smith and George Jennings, is their weaker side defensively. When they played each other earlier this year, Melbourne Storm allowed Manly to score 3 tries, and from those 3 tries, Garrick scored 2, and Jason Saab scored the other. So all this talk is around turbo, and so it should be. He's a fucking freak. But what that means is Turbo's going to attract a lot of attention. And the Storm work very well together defensively. So I see the Storm trying to cut off his time. They won't be retreating on defense. If anything, I foresee a lot of people jamming in. There's going to be a whole lot of jamming.
Yeah, a lot of jam.
They'll be jamming Big Turbo. So they'll be jamming in and they'll be jamming often. So I think that'll mean a lot of ball for the outside men for the Sea Eagles. So I think Saab or Garrick will go over for a try, probably both, but I'm really leaning towards Garrick scoring. That's my pick on this one. But it's going to be a cracker of a game. So if I'm watching it, I'm only waiting for Garrick to score. It means I'll probably get to enjoy most of it because the outcome of the game, it's not going to sway my pick whatsoever. So pretty keen for that. Now into your slutty Saturday. I don't know how slutty it is with only 2 games, but we'll see what we can do.
Bit frigid this Saturday.
It's a bit frigid. 5:40 p.m. at Queensland Country Bank Stadium. Oh, fuck. I've been saying it right for the last few weeks. Yeah. Queensland Country Bank Stadium in Townsville. It's the Sydney Roosters versus the Gold Coast Titans. As we know, Roosters copping injuries all over the place. They actually have quite a strong team. Victor's back. Jared's back. Fletcher's back. Copley's been named as a reserve. Chance he plays, but they don't need him because Ikavalu's still there. Tupou, Morris. Kieran had a cracker game at the centres last week. So Roosters come into this game pretty healthy as they can be. The Titans, they just bloody whooped the Warriors. Stole 8 spot from Cronulla. They've got the same team, which means no Ash Taylor, which is a plus. But it means Tyrone Peachey is playing. That means the left side of the left wingers are not going to score, which is Philip Sammy, who I happened to get on last week. The Peach, you got to show and go. He's showing and going all day long. The way they line up, Roosters heavy favourites at $1.25. The line on this one is 11.5. Total match points 46.5. Both of these clubs are your flat track bullies. They bang the teams that they're supposed to, and they get pumped by everybody else. But how do you see this one going?
That's how I see it. Roosters are flat track bullies. They're going to pump the Titans. Titans had their grand final last week. You saw it. They carried it like they were like it was their grand final. This Roosters team actually starting to look better than it's been in a long time. They've, as you said, beating teams they should and losing to the teams that no one expects and everyone expects them to. So I think they go out 11 and a half. I think is way too short. Roosters they do clock in and out at times, but they've got Victor back, and I'm assuming, I know he says he's not going to, but I'm assuming Robbo's gone up to him and said, "Listen, we can't get you suspended again. You need to pull your head in. Nothing silly for the next couple of weeks." So that forward pack, it's Jared Weir-Hargraves, CSO Takahoho, Angus Crichton. I always get that one butchered. Victor Radley, like that's a pretty good. And Sam Verrills, he was literally really he was the grand final winning hooker like in that team a couple of years ago against Melbourne. That's a very good forward pack. Their backline, still James Tedesco, second best fullback in the comp at the moment. Daniel Tupou, representative. Josh Morris, representing player. Adam Kieran, in form. Ikavalu, seasoned winger. Drew, you got Hudson and Lamb in the halves, which question, but they got Walker on the bench. It's not a bad Roosters team. Like I think next week they will give whoever loses out of Melbourne and Manly a fair shake. And if they happen, because the winner of this game plays the loser of Melbourne Manly, if they happen to get Melbourne next week, I would almost say they're a fair shout at upsetting and beating Melbourne, because I think the pressure would be all on Melbourne and they would be rattled, whereas Manly not so much. But I think they win that line comfortably. How do you see it?
Yeah, I'm with you. Actually, I got something hot off the press, which I want to make sure I just throw in here.
Oh, yeah.
Our good mate Stavros reached out to me today to share a prediction on how he sees this final series going. And I promised him that I'd give him a shout out and do a mention on here while it's relevant. He's got here Manly to beat the Storm, Para to beat the Knights, and then Para to beat the Storm. There's his bold prediction.
No, but Para don't play the Storm. He's butchered that.
Yeah, so Stavros, if you're listening, your prediction fucking sucks if that doesn't line up.
Yeah, because the loser of, because everyone was looking at that going, oh, can Roosters play Souths in week 2? But they can't. They're on opposite sides. So the Roosters, the winner of that game plays the loser out of Manly and Melbourne. But it was nice. It was a good thought.
Thank you, Stavros.
Yes, Stavros.
Now, I see this game going the same way. My notes say that both of these teams are bullies. So that was my feel. That was my vibe. So then I looked into the numbers, looked into the data. It turns out the data says the same thing. Both of these teams are absolutely terrible at covering the line as underdogs, and they cover it very well when they're favourites. So because of that, I'm taking this Roosters to cover the 11.5. The Titans, massive game last week, and I think they'll freeze. This is a big game for them, and I think they'll freeze up. Fogarty probably won't offer too much. The Peach will get all in his head. He'll be running sideways the whole time. Yep. Jared Wallace is still busy thinking about Matt Lodge. David Fafita has big game potential, but doesn't do anything in big games. Like, think of all the Origin games. He doesn't have one Origin highlight.
Yeah.
Like, he's got the skill set, but I don't think he's putting it all together. I think Tino has a massive game, but Tino alone is not going to take that team to cover this 11.5. So
no.
Well, we're going Roosters. We're both going Roosters, so it's a very confident bet. I reckon load up on 11.5 for the Roosters just as a single bet alone. You know what? Get straight on the 13 plus. Back the boys. Up you go, Teddy. On to our final game on slutty frigid Saturday at 7:50 p.m. Queensland Country Bank Stadium in Townsville. It's the rematch between the Panthers and the Rabbitohs. The Panthers absolutely slapped the Rabbitohs early in the year. The Rabbitohs had a chance at redemption. The Rabbitohs were also on a 10-game win streak. The Panthers had a couple of injuries, but some key players coming back. The Rabbitohs got out in front early in that game. It looked like it was going to be a tight one. And the Panthers ended up beating them, 25-12?
Yeah.
So they beat them 13 plus anyway. Now the Rabbitohs don't have Latrell Mitchell. Blake Taft's been put into the fullback position. You're our resident Panthers man, but before we get to your take, $1.25 for the Panthers, $4 for the Rabbitohs. It's the exact same odds as the Roosters Titans game. The line is also 11.5, and the total match points at 44.5. Without being biased, how do you see this game going for the punters?
Not being biased, Panthers cover it easy. Same thing. You just said it. They beat them by 13 last time, where they were down 12 zip. Had well behind South. South jumped out of the gates, played their best football. We're down 12-0 with Latrell. So the difference is they don't have Mansour, obviously, who's struggled, but they don't have Latrell. Penrith, on the other hand, have gained more players back. They were missing Mr. Brian Toto in that game. And you see the difference he makes in terms of he runs for a casual 280 odd meters on last week. So he, again, shows how valuable he is. They're going to have easier go forward out of the half. They have this guy called Tavita Pangai, who's also now played a few games since they've last played each other. So if you go back to when they did play against each other a few weeks back, Penrith were missing a couple players. Rabbitohs were near full strength, and they were putting that down to this is their test, and Rabbitohs went out with the intentions of trying to win it, still couldn't win it, and now they're going to play in a finals game where, Penrith have gained players, such as those ones that are listed, and Rabbitohs are losing players. So I think they cover that line comfortably. I think Penrith are on the upward trajectory. If you look at the teams we just spoke about, you got your Melbourne Storm and your Manly. They're not playing as good as football they were earlier in the year. Penrith obviously went through a patch during Origin without missing players. They started the season well, slowed down a bit. They only lost 3 games still all year, but they're getting better each week. And last week, whilst it wasn't the most convincing win until the end of the game, they were in control that whole game against Para's second string teams. Whereas week prior to that, they struggled for a fair bit against the Dragons and then come over the top. So I think they will win, put a stamp on it, because then they know that win gets them one more win from the grand final. So that's how they see it.
Yeah. I see it the exact same way. I do like the Rabbitohs, and I do like Adam Reynolds. Hope he knocks over a juicy 40-20. But no Latrell, he's the X factor. Cody Walker freezes up in this game.
Yeah.
Remember that stat we spoke about, how if Cody Walker touches the ball more than Adam Reynolds, they're going to lose. I can tell you Cody Walker's going to get angry, and he's going to get his hands on this ball again.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's going to be a lot of errors coming. I think that 11.5 is chump change, which is crazy. So, and we're both on the same one, so that's probably a lock. Those two bets, get straight on it. Eat them up, multi them together, paying $3.60. Boy, get straight into that. Into the final game of the round. Sunday Arvo, Brown Park in Rocky. Parramatta Eels versus the Newcastle Knights. Parramatta rested half the club last week, including some of the coaches. Apparently they didn't even bother coaching because there was no point. They put a semi-decent performance early. And then sheer talent and everything else got in the way, and they ended up getting cleaning up. So I don't think it's fair to take that game into and consider that as their form, because the previous week they shot the lights out of the Cowboys, and they've shown that they are capable. There is some confidence there. Mitchell Moses got tackled with the ball, which means he's not completely afraid to run. Newcastle Knights got dusted up by the Broncos last week. They did rest a few players. Pearce and Ponga came off early. Both the Saifidi boys are back. Brayley's back. Barnett, Sue, Frizzell. So the Knights fielding a team as strong as they possibly can be. Parramatta still favourites in this one, $1.39. Newcastle at $3. The line on this one is 7.5. Total points are 45.5. How do you see this game going?
Yeah,
this could be the last leg that you flop on.
This could be it. This could be my perfect round. It's going to be a small perfect round. This would be my perfect round. And I'm going to stick with the favourite on my last bet. Again, I've done it again. It's Para minus 7.5. Knights we've talked about it week in, week out. And last week, we were very confident on was the Broncos covering that line and up pumping the Knights. I know they rested players in the second half, but even when they had their full team on the paddock, just about minus a couple of players, they struggled against the Broncos. They haven't been convincing for the last few weeks. And whereas Para have turned a bit of form, they beat Melbourne. You said it, that first, if they went out and Penrith had dominated the whole game, like they dominated the last 20, 30 minutes, then it would have been like, oh, doesn't look good. But because they put up a fight for that first half and that bit of the start of the second half, there was a lot of people looking at them going, that's pretty good from Para. You know, that's what we want to see, and the players seem to get involved and like it as well. So I think, they'll cover that. They'll cover that line. I think, honestly, I think the only game, obviously, is the Melbourne Manly game where there will be an upset. but people then will go, is it an upset? Like Manly are a good team, but
Yeah.
the rest of them, I think, are just going to be pretty much one-way traffic. I think next week onwards is when it gets tricky, because then you're looking at possibly a Souths team up against the Para team, and then you're like, oh, you got two teams that have won their games and have a bit of form versus two teams that have lost their games, and it's question marks. But yeah, I just think Para cover the line comfortably.
I don't want to leave my the last leg of my multi to Para covering the line. I did look at the numbers though. Para does cover the line very well as a favorite. They're actually ranked number 1 in the competition. When Parramatta's the favorite, they've got a great record on covering the line, which helps your cause. But the other statistic that came out is that Newcastle's underdogs are one of the best teams in the league at covering the line. So it makes it a little bit tough to call on. There's two things. I've been talking all year about how I don't like Parramatta, and I still don't like them, even though I live in the Parramatta region. Still not a big fan. But then looking at Newcastle, their attack is dreadful. It is awful. Even last week against the Broncos, I tried to throw the ball around, and I was like, oh, here we go. This is a bit dangerous. That still stunk. That was shithouse. So, but the Knights are fielding a very strong team. So I think it'll be close. It could be about 8 to 10 points the difference in this one, but I feel very confident back in the unders in this one. I know unders have fucked me in the past, but I know that Newcastle can't score points. Regardless of who they field, they can't score points. I know that they'll be up for this game. They'll have motivations there. So I think defensively, they'll be up for it. They still probably lose by 12, but I can see a 24 to 12 scoreline, 18 to 6, something dreadful like that. So that 45.5 is pretty juicy total for me to take. So I'm back in the unders in this one. I think Parramatta will win, but I feel more confident back in the unders. So all my 4, I've power played that son of a bitch. I get $16.74. Probably a bit higher than yours because I got Garrick at $2.10.
Yeah, mine's
what's your combo workout for?
$13.58 for mine.
Are you on Sportsbet or 365?
Sportsbet. I've changed it up as an omen. I thought let's try Sportsbet is 365. Fucked me last week, so why not? Why not? It's the Tigers.
Yeah.
Fuck the Tigers.
No. Absolutely fuck them. No, I've been dabbling in with a lot of bookies, but Ladbrokes and Ned stopped giving me bonus bets and deposit matches, so I'm probably just going to stick to Sportsbet and 365 for now. Fuck lads. Fuck you, Neds. Fuck you, Jacqueline. That bitch on the chat. I thought she was going to give me a bonus bet. She didn't give me one, so pretty disappointed in that, to be honest. I've been living for quite a while on these free bonus bets, but not happening. But look, I'm pretty sure that's bang on an hour for us. Probably more, probably less. I hope you punters out there like the dribble. That wraps up our round. Shout out to everyone in the Discord channel. You guys make a massive difference.
Cheers for the feedback as well. Cheers for the feedback, guys. Keep the feedback.
Appreciate the feedback. It keeps us aroused.
Yeah, turns us
keeps
on.
us moist. And if you are listening, the other cool thing that we're going to do is we're going to open up this podcast chat channel in the Discord. So you guys have access to that. You guys can give us feedback on the spot. Within that, we can make changes. If you want to see more stuff, just let us know. If you want me to stop talking about stuff, let me know. I'd be happy to just keep it professional. You probably don't want that. And if you're not in the Discord channel, the fuck are you waiting for? Just get in there. You're already listening to this. We might as well jump into a free Discord channel, extract the value. We've got some tennis legends happening at the moment. EPL's coming soon. NFL, you're ready to know and make that bank on the NBA. UFC's been delicious to us. We've even got fucking motor racing going off. So if you're interested in any of those, or if you like energy drinks, jump into the Discord because we got the channel for you. Other than that, you'll hear these sexy voices of ours next week, baby.
See you guys.